Hi everyone, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here with a little bit of Sunday lunches, I'll say as always, but it's been a bit hit and miss recently, so it's only going to get worse, but I'll come on to that. So what have I been watching? Well, not a massive shock for most people. There's a lot of K-drama in here. Yeah, I mean, things have been a bit crazy. I'm a little bit behind on some of my shows. But started a few new ones as well, not just K-dramas, but that is pretty much what I'm watching at the moment because it's just better. It's just better than the other rubbish that we tend to get. But starting with something that's not K-drama, you'll be pleased to know. Let me just get this up. Okay. So The Changeling. So I think I've watched the first 3 episodes of this, maybe 4. It drops weekly on Apple. As you know, I'm a bit of a fan of Apple TV. Yeah, and this is quite an interesting one. It's the premise is you've got this guy here, as you can see with the baby, and it's kind of got it's a sort of thriller with like almost like a supernatural undertones, I guess. So this guy, he's a book buyer, so he tends to go to like estate sales and gets books, bit like Johnny Depp's character in the Ninth Gate. And he goes to like the public library and he sees the librarian there, and basically proceeds to chat her up and basically stalk her over months. Keep asking her out, and she finally acquiesces and they go out on a date. And she says that the reason she's like been knocking him back is because she's going to be going to live in Brazil for I can't remember 6 months or a year or something like that. And he's like, oh, okay. But they have a really successful date. So he says, like, I'll wait for you. And, when you come back and we can kind of pick up where we left off. So on her travels in Brazil, there's an area where all the locals have told her not to go. So, of course, she goes and she meets this sort of crazy old lady who then puts like a piece of like red string around her wrist and tells her to like make a wish. And then is warning to say that, this you should never take this, or it needs to kind of, I think, come off naturally or something, but you should never take this bit of string off. So she ends up then going back to the States, and he meets her at the airport, and they go out for something to eat. So she relays this story to him. So he just basically then cuts the bit of string off her wrist. Like, brilliant. One thing you're told not to do. So he's like, oh gosh, boom, cuts the string. So they go on to get married and have a baby. And so they're very, very happy up to this point. But the moment she has the baby, things start to go wrong. And initially, it looks like she's got postnatal depression. But then she's convinced that the baby's not hers. And then the lead character, his kind of backstory is that it's very sort of similar, that his dad kept asking his mum out for a year or something ridiculous, and they finally got together. And then when he was little, the dad disappears, and he has these kind of strange flashbacks to his father, and this is the same with the sort of supernatural element, is it? And it's like, is it just in his dreams that he's seeing something weird, or did something actually happen? And he's got this storybook, which is kind of like the sort of fairy fables, and this is where the changeling comes from, that that fairies will take away the child and then replace it with one of their own, and then the humans unknowingly bring it up, sort of like the cuckoo kind of thing. So anyway, his wife has like a full-on breakdown and decides that she's going to kill the baby because she's convinced it's not human, it's not hers. And she ends up like tying him up, and he gets hit with a hammer in the face, and he ends up in a right mess. And she does indeed kill the baby. And obviously he then ends up going after her for sort of revenge. and he goes to the library and he takes a shotgun and threatens the people she works with, but she's not there, nobody's seen her. And he ends up going to prison. I just thought it was a little bit harsh, I think he could have probably got mitigating circumstances or something, but he ends up going to prison for a little while. He's come out, and he's then, obviously he's lost everything. He doesn't know where she is. He's not the most stable. He's going to like sort of grief counsel or self-help, like grief counseling. And there's a woman there who starts going on about how the child is not hers, and it's like it obviously triggers him. And he's having obviously very dark sort of the deletion thoughts. And this is as far as I've got. So the whole thing is at the moment it's like elements of sort of supernatural, but is it just in their heads? Like she's got postnatal depression, and we find out from her backstory that her mum also suffered with mental health issues and basically tried to kill the family. She set fire to the house. Her and her sister got out, but her mother and father died. So she's got a bit of a dark backstory. So at the moment, it's like, is there something supernatural going on, or is it all just, a series of circumstances and mental health? Just don't know. So it's quite an intriguing start at the moment. I say I've got one or two to watch, I think, to catch up. But I'm quite enjoying it. I just sort of at the moment sort of intrigued where it's going to go. Yeah, it's kind of 50-50 at the moment. I say I've enjoyed what I've seen, but I think it has got that premise that the story could go off a cliff any minute. But so far, so good. Like a lot of Apple stuff. Again, the production's very good. The pacing's fine. Yeah, it's just kind of, where we are now is like what happens next. I think it'd be good if it does ramp up a bit. And whether they'll keep it right the way through to the end, like, is this real or is it in their heads? Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But do check it out. Let me know what you think. That's The Changeling on Apple TV. So, yeah. Obviously, I normally do a few slides of what's going on in the press, but they're just the same slides every week. It's, Disney's stock is still plummeting. Supposedly there are talks, the WGA are having talks today with the studios, and the studios saying that this is our final offer, take it or leave it. The deck certainly stacked in their favor. It has, as the writers and the actors have seen, no one gives a crap. Nobody's even noticed that they're not even working. Nobody wants them back. It's been an absolute bonus opportunity for the studios to get out of their ridiculous contracts that they've done pre-COVID, to suspend deals with producers. Like we've seen, like all the worst of Hollywood, which is great. Old JJ and there's a plethora of woke writers have been sort of shown the door. This is an absolute golden opportunity for Hollywood to clear house, not lose face, and actually start making good content again. But this is Hollywood, so they are terminally stupid, probably end up doubling down, especially Disney. I mean, obviously we saw this week that Bob Iger wants to try and calm the noise and step out the culture war that he started. Basically, he's the one that let them all through the door into Disney in the first place. And as I've said on this stream before, I think Bob Chapek must be laughing his butt off somewhere. He got some golden handshake, so God knows how many millions of dollars he got for being fired. And Iger's had to go in and say, clear up the mess that he started, and just prove that actually he's not a very good CEO. Anybody can go out and make acquisitions and make money, but it's maintaining the money, it's maintaining those IPs and those properties, which they have absolutely failed miserably at. Ahsoka gets worse week on week. We had some key jangling, not this week, the week before, with Anakin return, which had so much potential. And just end up being this sort of shallow nothing burger of Anakin saying, do you want to live or die? Well, that's profound. Brilliant. And all the kind of the things they were talking about for her to address hadn't even come up. You didn't even know she was having crisis of conscience, or whether she wanted to be a Jedi or not a Jedi. You know, there was none of that lead up that we even thought she had any kind of, I don't want to fight anymore. There was no hint of that, so it was all kind of pointless and just an excuse to have Anakin. I mean, great, you know, Hayden. You know, he obviously got a lot of stick for the prequels. I think Anakin's character just wasn't very well written. You know, he was just this sort of precocious brat that Hayden played. I mean, you know, I really like Revenge of the Sith. I think it's George hit his stride. It really, you know, was more the caliber of the original. But he got a lot of stick, and some of it fair, a lot of it unfair. So I think, as I said, when Kenobi came out or Obi-Wan came out, sort of pleased to sort of see he got another go, or to, you know, I think his popularity is bigger now than it was then, but they just keep giving him crap material to work with. So, but I hope he's getting a really good payday, because he's like, whatevs. So good luck to you, Hayden. Yeah, so Ahsoka's just crashing and burning, and the next great thing from Star Wars we've got is the Acolyte. I can't even get my head around how bad that is going to be. You know, Harvey Weinstein's XPA is making a show. What makes her remotely qualified to be a showrunner when you used to be basically a secretary who knew exactly what was going on? Allegedly. Anyway, let's move away from that conversation. Yeah, so yeah, it's the same old. You know, Disney shares are not where they need to be. Paramount shares are floating around $13 a share. Oh my god, they can't get their house in order. Strange New World season 2 has not done well, not surprisingly. It's been awful. Any potential that the first season has completely gone out the window. So the only good Star Trek we've had is still, in my opinion, Picard season 3. And it just beggars belief that Paramount aren't bringing Terry Matalas in. It completely showed up Kurtzman, continues to show up Kurtzman. It's got to be legal. Well, terminal stupidity or legal wranglings, who knows? But when your shares are like $13, I'd just say cut your losses, and you got nothing to lose at this point bringing Terry in. So yeah, so Hollywood continues to burn, the studios continue to implode. We've got the Marvels coming out in November. It's just, and then Aquaman 2, which is already on a crash course to oblivion because the turds in it. The amount of money that they've spent on the Marvels and on Aquaman, there's not a snowflake's chance in hell that either of these things are going to make their money back in any way, shape, or form. And it's just, you know, give it a month and they'll be on Hulu and Disney Plus, right? It's going to tank so bad, it's going to be hilarious. And I think they deserve everything they get, quite frankly. But, you know, with all this writer's strike stuff, it does make you scratch your head and go, what on earth are we going to get, you know, over the next 2 years? You know, there's obviously some stuff in the can that's been delayed and been pushed out next year. But past that, you know, nothing's being filmed, nothing's being supposedly written. I'm sure there's lots of writing going on, just not officially. So yeah. Which I think will just open the door even more for foreign content. Not just Korea, but other parts of Asia, parts of Europe, even UK TV, I guess, getting pushed out on the Netflix platform. And the more, you know, we get of that, the more it shows up Hollywood and their piss poor writing. I haven't done a slide for it, but I did watch is it Dear Child, which is German, that's on Netflix and in the top 10 at the moment, certainly here in the UK. Disturbing, I think, is one of the words for it. So you got a scenario where this woman escapes. She's like in this bunker with these two children who they call mother, and Papa keeps them locked in this bunker, and every time he arrives, the kids hold their hands out like this, and he checks, make sure their hands are clean, and checks hers as well. And if it's not, she gets a beating. And so the kids have spent their whole life in this bunker. They're like the girl, Hannah, is probably about 8, I think they said, and she's got a little brother who's about 6 or 7. And the whole thing is that so we see this woman escaping with one of the children and gets hit by a car, ends up in hospital. Initially, they think she's someone else, and this is kind of what brings the story in, that there's another girl went missing 13 years ago. And her parents are obviously still holding out hope that she's alive. They rush to the hospital. They realize it's not her daughter, absolutely destroyed. But then they see the little girl who is just a spitting image of their daughter when she was young, and the girl sees the father and calls him grandfather. So then there's this whole thing so that's not their daughter, but there's her daughter is a spitting image of their daughter. So this whole thing is that, yes, this guy had kidnapped their daughter. That is their granddaughter, but it's this whole like, well, what happened to her? Who is the guy? Why were these women like being kidnapped? And so it's quite, I think obviously based on they didn't say this one was based on a true story, but we have seen true stories where girls have been kidnapped and held, hostage, and end up having children from the people that have taken them, because they're obviously habitually raped. But yeah, again, it is dubbed. It's dubbed into English. I watched it in English. But again, it's a good story. I think it was 6 episodes, maybe a bit longer. But obviously the trauma of this woman coming out after being held captive for 5 months, the story unraveling of like what happened to their daughter, is she still alive, what's going to happen with the grandchildren, etc. So yeah, definitely worth a watch if you like your sort of your thrillers, like like the sort of Scandinavian noir. You'll definitely like this. Yes, that was quite a good watch. I enjoyed that. And but yeah, it is a bit dark. But definitely worth a watch. So of course it's now K-drama time. So last time I spoke about, I just started watching The Devil's Judge, which I've now finished. And I'm also watching Destined with You, which drops weekly at the moment. So the model in Korea is that you get 2 episodes a week on consecutive days. They're like different days. I think this one drops on a Wednesday and a Thursday, where Uncanny Counter 2 was a Saturday and Sunday. But you basically get 2 episodes a week back to back over X amount of weeks. So I think there's 4 more episodes to go. And then I literally started yesterday the one called Tomorrow. So Devil's Judge turned out to be really good. I really enjoyed this. As I've said before, they tend to sort of fit into sort of 3 genres. You have your kind of your sort of rom-com romance, your revenge dramas, and your sort of supernatural, which may have elements of all 3. So this is very much a revenge drama, The Devil's Judge. So as I said last time, we've got this guy. So we've kind of got a near future Korea where the gap between the rich and poor is growing. You've got a highly corrupt legal system. So basically, if you're rich, you can buy your way out of anything, and there's no repercussions for their actions. So they've set up this live TV court drama or court session but the public on an app get to vote whether they're guilty or not guilty, and then the judge gets to pick what their sentence is depending on if they're found guilty or not, to try and stop the rich people like wriggling out of there being no consequences. So initially we can't quite work out whether the judge is a good guy or a bad guy, or is he somewhere in between. And there's two younger judges who support him, and one of them is the spitting image of his brother who died. And we basically see he's from a very wealthy family, like a billionaire type family, and we find out that his brother and sister-in-law were killed in a fire in a church on the property, and he was basically going to leave all his money to charity that's there to help poor people and build property and help educate and get poor people out of the situation they're in. And pretty much the group of people who head this up were at this church because they were there because he was going to say donate the money. And in the fire, there was just basically they just were out for themselves. One of them, his niece was there, and she literally gets trapped between the pews. And one of the women, rather than helping her, she's probably about 4 or 5 years old, maybe. She actually stands on the pew and scrambles over and crushes her legs even more. So she ends up, the little girl ends up in a wheelchair, and the judge ends up, he runs in, sees his brother and sister-in-law on the floor with the daughter, and he's like, his brother's still at this point, but get the niece out. He ends up getting the niece, but then gets sort of crushed under a beam and he gets badly burnt back, but him and the niece survive. So there's a whole thing like who started the fire, how did the fire happen, and there's this whole thing that his niece and his sort of housekeeper believe he killed his own brother because his brother was going to give all the family fortune away. So did he or didn't he kill his brother? We also find that he was basically the illegitimate son of their wealthy father. And as a result, he's horrifically treated as a child. He's viciously beaten by the father, and kind of see some of that. So he's got a very damaged background. So again, we constantly get like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? The judge that looks just like his brother, he's kind of planted in there to try and find evidence of whether this judge is corrupt or not. And they end up kind of forming a bit of a friendship or some mentor and student kind of thing. And he ends up living with the judge for a while. And again, so it's like his investigation, and his best friend is a cop, and there's a bit of a she's sort of been in love with him since they've known each other in kindergarten, but he's all sort of rebuffed her because she's his best friend and he doesn't want to risk losing that friendship. So there's a plot going on with like those two, and there's lots of twists and turns all the way through this. And then we've got the sort of main antagonist is this absolutely batshit crazy woman who used to be a maid in their house. Again, who's been like sort of deranged, in love with the judge since she was like 12, and so there's all these different elements going on, but lots of twists and turns, and are they good, are they not good? And I think a lot of it is just like shades of grey. But it's very few people are wholly bad or wholly good, and it's kind of where is your line kind of thing. How far would you go to get justice? And again, it's like, obviously if you become as bad as the people you're trying to prosecute, how are you any better kind of thing. But there's some really dislikable characters in this. They're absolutely vile with the way they treat people, and sort of seeing them getting their comeuppance and things is very gratifying. But I highly recommend this one. I think this is one of the 16 episode ones. It's always really funny when I'm watching the ones that have 16 episodes, because they normally get about halfway through, and I'm normally enjoying it. Go to episode 8 and you're like, oh my god, there's another 8 episodes. There can't be that much more story left to tell. And then they always kick it up again, and there's another 8 episodes which are then brilliant, and it goes in different directions, and you never get bored. You're always just thinking, wow, 16 episodes, most of them are over an hour. How is this going to hold my interest? But again, the caliber of writing is so good, and actually because they've got that time to develop the characters, you get invested in the characters, you care about the characters, you understand their motivations, and they have absolutely nailed it sounds daft because that's the point of a story, but right in the narrative. Everything we've kind of lost in Western television, they are absolutely nailing. And this is why these shows are just becoming so popular. So definitely recommend The Devil's Judge. Go check that out. It is subtitled only, so appreciate that may not be your cup of tea, but I think once you get 1 or 2 episodes in, you don't really kind of know. The more you watch them, the less it bothers you that it's subtitles. So do give it a go. Let me know what you think. So Destined with You is very much, obviously, falls into the rom-com. You've got, so most of these, you've got a very wealthy, tends to be a man who's quite arrogant. He's very sort of business driven, normally career orientated. His family are normally trying to push them into getting married. He doesn't have time for that, or he doesn't want to settle down. And then they meet someone who's of a lower status, but lovely inside and out, and their paths cross and they don't like each other to begin with, and then over the course of the show they kind of end up together. That's basically the narrative of these, and this absolutely fits into that. So he's a high powered lawyer. She works as a civil servant at town hall, but he has within his family, they say it's like a family curse, and the men of the family tend to die quite young. And he starts getting tremors in his hand, and sees a doctor, and he's basically got this degenerative brain disease, and he's obviously it's going to deteriorate and he's going to die young. So his family own some private land that has this old shrine on it, and they're supposed to maintain it. It's not been particularly well maintained. Then there's a whole thing, and it's got rumored of being this haunted house. So requests have gone in. Basically, this thing's an eyesore, and somebody died there, and can it be demolished? So she has to reach out and speak to this family to get them to agree to demolish it, and that's how they meet. He's got like an elderly relative, and she gives him a box to give to this girl because she says the box belongs to her, and whatever's inside the box will help him. And it sort of transpires that it's basically a spell book from a shaman hundreds of years ago. And so initially, and there's a guy at the town hall who she's got a crush on, so she decides to do a love spell, and she makes this water, and he's going to a meeting, so she puts it in his glass, but then the lawyer ends up drinking it, and then he becomes infatuated with her. And again, it's like, are these spells really working, or is it just something daft going on? But obviously there's all these misunderstandings and things that start to happen. But then she then also casts a cure disease spell, and he does appear to be getting better. So they're not sure if the spells are working or not. So then we end up with a kind of a love triangle situation. So the lawyer is dating. He's been with this girl for 2 years. So now they're sort of pushing for them to get married. Initially they break up. He breaks up with her because he knows he's dying, and he didn't tell her. Then they end up getting back together, but when they're back together, he's got this infatuation with the girl. So then it comes out like it looks like he's like cheating, and then we find out the girl is actually bullied. The girl he's engaged to bullied the other girl at school, and she's actually a real cow, and she's actually cheating on him, but he doesn't know. It's classic, absolute K-drama. Everybody's like, there's like love triangles. Everybody's cheating on everybody. Again, is this, and what now we've seen is that they knew each other, or sort of like reincarnation. So like 400 years ago, they loved each other, and something, and this is how the curse kind of gets triggered, we think. But he's now remembered his past memories, and this is like they're destined with you. They're kind of destined to be with each other. But like I say, but there's also a stalker who this guy who was running his garden centre also supposedly drank the love spell water, but he's a complete psycho. And someone like stole her clothes and made this effigy and cursing him. It's all going on. Again, this one is subtitle only, but I'm really enjoying it. I do like these ones. You kind of know, you know what the formula is, but the story they tell is different and enjoyable. There's always twists and turns, and things don't see coming. So again, enjoying this. So it's dropping weekly on Netflix on a Wednesday and a Thursday. I think about 4 episodes left to go. Do check that out. And then lastly, tomorrow. So it has the same lead as Destined with You. Is it Ruwan? I think his name is Ruwan. So this one is about, for some reason, he's well educated but can't get a job. His best friend is trying to get into the police academy. He's lost his father, so it's just like him, his mum, and his sister. So he goes for a job interview. He gives a cracking answer. He completely outperforms, because it's down to the last 2. Completely outperforms the other applicant. So he phones his mum and goes, right, I think this one's in the bag. And then he realizes her surname, and the company he's interviewing at, and it's basically the CEO's daughter was the other candidate. So even though he outperformed her, she got the job. So he's absolutely gutted. Doesn't have to tell his mum. He gets a bit drunk, and he's just walking home or walking around, because he's and he's on a bridge, and he sees this guy basically looking like he's going to delete himself. He's going to throw himself off the bridge. And he goes to try and stop this man from throwing himself off the bridge. And these 2 people appear and sort of run up to them and chuck him out the way and say, this is for us to sort, stand back. And while they're all kind of arguing about trying to save the guy basically hurls himself off the bridge. He then goes in after him to save him. And then we see him waking up in hospital, but he doesn't actually wake up. He's now in a coma. And he's then kind of in the afterlife, and he's made an offer and it turns out these 2 people are Grim Reapers, and there's different teams, and this team is there to try and prevent people from deleting themselves. So they'll kind of get an alert, and they go and they try to talk that person out of it and save them before, because things are so bad that basically heaven's getting full. They're the population is declining in Korea. There's not enough babies being born. There's a lot of old people, and there's a lot of self-deletion going on. So heaven's getting full, so they need to try and slow down the rate that people are dying. So this is why this team's been created. He's given the option that he can either lay in a coma for 3 years and he will wake up, or he can become a Grim Reaper and help these guys, and he can wake up in 6 months. So there's a few things that happen, and there's different teams. He sort of tries out IT and a few other bits and pieces, and ends up going with this team. And then we see some really bad backstory. So again, this TV writer's gonna, is desperately unhappy. We find out her school bully has written a book all about bullying, but how a sort of self-insert hero in the book stands up to the bullies, but she was the bully. So this girl's basically, and then she's basically started picking on her at the TV station. This girl is proper damaged, and they're able to go into the memories of the girl while she's asleep, and they see the extent of the bullying. So when she goes to the roof and is going to throw herself off, obviously they have to try and talk her off, but they've seen her memories, and they can they stop her or can't they? I'm again about 4 episodes in, I think, and this is sort of as far as I've got right now. I believe this has been renewed for season 2, which is coming next year. Again, subtitle only, but again, quite an interesting premise. Quite enjoying this. Again, they always have that little mix of, when they're talking about something so dark, they do kind of have a little bit of silliness in there to try and make it a little bit light-hearted. And once you start watching these regularly, you kind of get used to it. They have these sort of strange sound effects sometimes, like almost cartoon sound effects, because a lot of these as well are adaptations of what they call webtoons, which is kind of, I guess, the Korean version of anime or manga. So a lot of them are sort of were comics first, and then have been converted into real life shows. But again, they're all very faithful to the source material. So yeah, so far so good on both of these. But do go check them out. Try and give subtitles a go, even if it's not your bag, because you will get some great stories and some really interesting shows. I was watching a YouTuber today. Apologies, I can't remember your name, but he basically done. It's like, so what is all this about Korean stuff? Is it a fan? Is it a flash in the pan? And over 10 weeks, he basically watched 10 shows, I think it was, 10 weeks. And the long and short of it is he just basically said that this isn't a fad. They're really well written, and that the big thing or the takeaway is that it's something new. These are new stories. Yes, they are quite formulaic. Once you know what the tropes are of these shows, you kind of know the beginning, middle, and end, but the actual story around it is different every time. It's new every time. They're well written. The characterizations are great. You care about the characters. You understand what's going on. And it's got time. They allow enough time to let the shows breathe. But very rarely do they have pacing issues, which is amazing when you think they are 16. It's like, there was one he was watching, I think they're an hour and a half episodes and 16 episodes, but you don't get bored. It's fantastic. So he's sort of saying, no, this stuff's here to stay, and it's absolutely kicking the West butt right now. And the main thing is, like, he's like, I don't want to go to cinema because either it's a sequel, a prequel, or a reboot. Where is the new stuff? Where's the interesting new stuff? And it's all coming out of Asia right now. So what? And it's like, basically, watch out Hollywood, especially at the moment, who are just shooting themselves in the foot royally. So do go check those out. Let me know what you think. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you like the picks? But do give them a go. You won't regret it. Lastly, I think, yes, just a couple of upcoming things. So the Continental, I'll start with the Continental. So as I mentioned on this channel before, I often get shows in advance from Amazon, and I get to watch them and critique them and tell them what I think. So I have actually already seen the first episode of the Continental. This is taken from IMBD, which says Peacock because that's where it's airing in the States. It's actually on Amazon over here in the UK. And it's a prequel to the John Wick films. It's kind of Winston's story. And how does he end up running the Continental, and how did he end up being the badass that he is? So Ian McShane's character. Set in the 70s, I think, from memory. So the first episode was good. It was okay. Didn't blow my socks off. Definitely some pacing issues. The version I saw. It's 3 episodes. I assume they're going to be weekly. I don't know. But yeah, some good action stuff in there. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of publicity around this because Mel Gibson's in it, but he's really not in it a lot. But the weird thing is that the character of Winston, and I put this in my feedback, was like American, and I'm like, with a really strong American accent, and I'm like, why is he American? Like, and I kind of even went back and just stuck on a John Wick film, saying, have I misremembered this? Because I know it's Ian McShane and he's British, but maybe he did put on an American accent. And he's really got quite a British accent in it. But the guy playing the young Winston has got this full-on a New York accent. So it's a bit like, have I got the wrong character? I'm not quite sure why. Or maybe something happens and but the thing is, he's meant to be like in his 20s. So I was like, well, even if he then went off and lived in the UK for a while, I don't think he'd come back with the accent that Ian McShane's got. So that was like a little bit confusing or annoying. But the actual show itself was quite good. But by the end of the first episode, I did want to watch the next episode, find out where it's going. Like I say, I don't know whether they've re-edited it or done anything with it. So for me, that sort of 20 minutes, I think the version I saw was 140 minutes, I think. About 20 minutes from the end, about 3/4 way through, it really got a bit ploddy. So hopefully they've sorted that out. And I say, I don't know if and now I know it's 3 episodes. I don't know how long the first episode is. So I can't work out if I've seen more than just the first episode. Because sometimes they do re-edit it, and it, things move into the second episode and things like that. So I'm not quite sure where the first episode ends versus the one that I saw. But it was okay. It was like, kind of, obviously it's in the John Wick universe. So it's John Wick-esque. There's lots of action. There's different gangs and things going on. Like I say, it didn't blow my socks off. It wasn't, wow, I've not seen anything like that on TV before. But it was good fun. It was fine. I am interested to see if they've re-edited it or changed that first episode in any way, and where the story goes and finishes. So yeah, I don't know what the launch date is for Amazon. I think it's on there now, actually. I think I might have saw it, so it might have been the 22nd of September as well. But do have a look on Amazon. Prequel to the John Wick series. Check it out. Then obviously we've got here in the UK, a new Doctor Who trailer dropped last night on the BBC. I didn't watch it on the BBC. They did posted it on X, I think, so I'd watched it on there this morning. And it looked quite good, actually, I have to say. I'm still very much, I don't know. I don't want to get, I desperately want it to be good. I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. Like a lot of Doctor Who fans, I fell foul of the Whittaker era. I stopped watching it. I just couldn't get into it. I've said on here before, in fairness, it was nothing to do with like having a female doctor or anything like that I stopped watching it. I just wasn't a fan of Jodie before she became the Doctor. I didn't think she had the acting chops for it. For me personally, I think she proved that. I know some people love her, and that's absolutely fine. I don't have an issue. The whole point of like different doctors is horses for courses, and if she's your favorite, then that's absolutely fine. But just wasn't for me. But maybe that's because I grew up with the classic and just the style of writing, how the Doctor's portrayed. It just didn't feel like Doctor Who to me. And for me, the writing was absolutely atrocious through the Chibnall years. So I'm a massive Russell T Davies fan. I love his work outside of Doctor Who. Obviously, it's very adult content. I mean, when he started writing, he wrote for a lot of children's shows. Here in the UK, he really sort of, found his teeth in the children's TV. And then went on to, write Queer as Folk. Recently, we've had It's a Sin. Nolly, which is around this British soap opera we had called Crossroads. So it's like Noel Gordon was a star of that. Helena Bonham Carter starred in it. Again, 3 parts. Loved it. I thought it was really good. So I do like his style of writing. A lot of his adult stuff isn't everybody's cup of tea, because I think most people know that RTD is a gay man. So he has a lot of gay content, especially It's a Sin, and it's that just doesn't work for some people. I personally thought it was a fantastic show. I laughed and cried in equal measures. It's just absolutely fantastic and so sad, all about the AIDS epidemic here in the UK. So being a big fan of his Doctor Who era, knowing his writing outside of Doctor Who, I say very long-windedly, just saying I really hope this is good. We've had some snippets which haven't really set the world on fire, I have to say. And a lot of the trailer last night was stuff that we've already seen, but it did expand on it. And it did actually. I watched it this morning and I went, little smile on my face going, looks quite good. I'm so hoping this is good. This is coming out in November. 3 episodes. I don't think we know the release schedule yet. But all through like November, apparently the BBC are going to be cranking it up. Given it's the 60th anniversary year, they've done bugger all so far, and I think the fans aren't. I'm certainly not impressed. So it's going to be Hell for Leather apparently in November. Watch out for updates and information, I guess, on X and other social medias as to what they're going to be doing. But yeah, I was like that bit of in me. I'll have a little bit, that little notch going. This could be good. This could be good. Time will tell, and I'm either going to be sitting here absolutely gushing or probably absolutely devastated. Depending on which way this goes. I'm trying to keep my rein it in. I don't want to get too optimistic, and that's sad. As a massive Doctor Who fan, it's so sad that you just don't want to get your hopes up that one of your favourite shows is going to be good. This is the world we live in now, unfortunately, that you're afraid that your TV shows are going to be good. Well, I'm not afraid it's going to be good. I'm afraid it's not going to be good. But yeah, I've literally got every part of me crossed that RTD pulls this off. And as I said before, I am, well, depending on how this goes, but I am kind of looking forward to Shooty. He does definitely have the acting chops for it. Who knows? If this goes well, it does bode well going into his era. If it's modern, shall we say, made for the modern audiences, it's going to be an absolute shit show. But I'm still, based on the trailer I saw last night, I am feeling optimistic. It did put a smile on my face. I'd say a lot of it is what we've already seen, but here's hoping. Not long to go now. Anywho, that's it from me. Went a bit longer than I planned to, gushing about my K-dramas. Apologies. So as always, do like, share and subscribe. Leave me some comments. What do you think about upcoming Doctor Who? Can you get into the K-dramas yet? Or do you wish I'd stop banging on about them? Do let me know. I do read all your comments and come back to you. So, upcoming schedule. So, again, bit 50-50 whether there'll be a show next week. I do have quite a busy weekend. But so it would be recorded. I'm going to try and maybe record something on Saturday to get out to you on Sunday. And then after that, I am taking a trip. Now, this won't be a shock based on everything I just talked about. I'm off to Asia. I'm off to South Korea and Japan for October. So if anybody's got any recommendations of places to go, things to visit, places to eat, if you live in that neck of the woods or you've been to that neck of the woods, do put it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Can't be first-hand recommendations, but that does mean I am going to be off the grid for pretty much the whole of October. So what I want to hope to do is try and record some shows for you before I go. Maybe do some atomic reads and get those out while I'm away. I don't know if I'll get the chance to do any kind of filming. I probably will obviously want to take some videos of the trip. But I'm not sure I'm going to have all my stuff with me to like edit it and all of that while I'm out there. So they may have to go up when I come back. But there might be some rough and ready stuff I just post to say, hey, look at where I am. Don't know yet, but hopefully, yeah, I can get some stuff out. But yeah, I wouldn't try and pre-record a couple of things for you while I'm away. Obviously, it won't be real-time reviews, but yeah, I might just do some of my go check these out retro ones or something like that. And then I'll be back in November, where it'll be great. Well, as I've explained to you guys, the reason I can be away for a month is that I'm self-employed. I contract. So depending on whether I start another contract or not when I get back, if obviously I'm not working the day job. I will hopefully do much more with the channel, do some live streaming because I actually have time. Maybe join a few streams as well. When I kicked off the channel last year, I was on quite a few streams, but they tend to be sort of stateside, but I could obviously stay up late and do those because I wasn't getting up for work the next day. So hopefully I can get some feelers out, be on a few shows, do a few live shows myself, and let you know about the trip and bore you some more about Korea. And again, hopefully I like the place, you know, after bigging it up so much. Hopefully it won't be a crashing disappointment. It looks beautiful. I can't wait. I'll be doing Seoul, Jeju Island and Busan. And Japan, I will be doing Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka and Hiroshima. So any suggestions for any of those places or places nearby, sort of you can do a day trip, I'd love to hear. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try and squeeze in a Sunday lunch or even a Atomic Pop chat next Sunday before I go. And I will miss you all. But very much looking forward to my holiday. I haven't had a holiday in a year, so I'm quite tired and looking forward to it. So have a great week. As always, again, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. Let me know your recommendations. And I will be back, hopefully, next weekend. Have a good week. Bye-bye.